G'day folks and welcome to the Spookcast, Australia's spookiest podcast. Welcome as well to our Spookcast DX video viewers. As you can see, we are recording this at night and in the dark, so that should be a fun little twist too. I mean, we usually record at night anyway. My name's Oliver Brandt, and with me in this very spooky episode are Angelo Valdivia.
Hello!
Luke Henderson.
It's cool to be here.
And Michael Goncalves.
Ooh!
We've got a great episode lined up for you, all about the spooky season, of course. This is going out on Halloween, hopefully. So, yeah, let's get stuck in. So, unlike previous themed episodes, there's actual on-theme news to talk about in this the themed Spookcast. So, I don't know how relevant this first one will specifically be to Switch, but, you know, we can always hope. There was a big Silent Hill information blowout. I think maybe one of them will come to Switch, but let's talk about them anyway, because like it's Silent Hill. There hasn't been anything in like 15 years about this series. So yeah. So the first big one is that Silent Hill 2 is getting a full remake, done by Bloober Team, who did The Medium and Layers of Fear. And just everything from top to bottom is redone. So the visuals, voice work, gameplay, just the whole thing. It has an over-the-shoulder camera instead of a fixed camera perspective, which I know some people are a little iffy about. But I mean, the trailer looks nice. And yeah, we don't know when that's coming out, but it'll be exclusive to PC and PlayStation for the first 12 months anyway. So doesn't really matter. It'll never come to Switch anyway. Like Layers of Fear is like on Switch, but I just am doubtful. That
Silent Hill 2 Cloud Edition.
I mean, I could see it.
Do not blaspheme those words, because you'll summon it into existence.
Say it 2 more times, Michael. Say it 2 more times.
Never.
So the next one I think actually could very well come to Switch. So this is a story-focused game called Silent Hill Townfall, and it's made by No Code, is it? Or is that the other one?
It's
No
such
Code.
a silly name, but I love it.
Yeah.
It's a good pun.
Which is the team that made Stories Untold and Observation, which are both really, really good games. There was like a teaser trailer, so we don't really know much about it, but like, given their previous games, I very much believe that could come to Switch.
Well,
it's going to be...
The most interesting thing about that is that Annapurna Interactive is producing it as
Yeah.
well.
So like Konami actually has like, all they're doing is like licensing the name, pretty much. But yeah.
So it'll either go really well or really badly. Be interesting to see how it goes.
Yeah.
Yeah. So there's also a new like actual film with people in it. Called Return to Silent Hill. That's
There's
coming.
already been a Silent Hill film.
I know,
are
this
you
is
talking
Return
about?
to Silent Hill.
Oh, of
We're
course.
going back.
One could say
The
this is
first one
Silent
was-
Hill 2, the movie.
Yeah. I mean, it is. It seems to be based on Silent Hill 2, so we'll see.
Dude, it's crazy to think that film came out 17 years ago.
Yeah.
That's
As
bonkers.
an old film, and it's still like it's super niche now, but it has a bit of a cult following. Like people still talk about it. When they talk about like good video game movies.
There's also a new. I don't know if you can call it a game. It's an interactive experience called Silent Hill Ascension that seems to be based on streaming and all sorts of weird internet things. I don't know. I watched the trailer and I was like, I have no idea what this is and I'm not interested. So.
Wait, is that actually what it's being pegged as an interactive experience?
Yeah, so they call it a live real-time interactive streaming series.
Okay.
Whatever the fuck that means, I
Streaming
don't
series,
know.
okay, but like if calling you can call anything an interactive experience. You can call like getting citrus acid in your eye and intermittent. Like it's such
But,
a,
the way that I see it
That's
is, it's
so
like,
specific.
it happens to the best of us.
from what I can understand, it's like a website that you'll be able to like go to, or maybe it'll be like an app that you download, and they'll like show you like a feed of like some things happening, and then like people watching can like choose to interact in particular ways. So like if everybody votes to do a particular thing, it goes and does that. It seems to be like, I don't know,
Like Twitch
Some sort
plays Pokemon, but
That's
Twitch
Yeah,
plays
like Silent
Pokemon,
Hill.
but a Silent Hill thing.
Same.
Yeah.
Man, remember Twitch plays
Um,
Pokemon? What a time.
So that apparently is starting streaming in 2023. I don't know what that means. They've really given no information about most of these things.
Oh, don't forget they had a quote from J.J. Abrams. that they put
Yeah,
out.
they sure did, because J.J. Abrams is involved for some reason.
Well, his production
Um,
company is at least.
Yeah. But yeah, and then sort of the big one, there's an actual new Silent Hill game, Silent Hill 5, called Silent Hill F, which is set in rural Japan in the 1960s. So very, very different vibe. There's a lot of flowers in the trailer, which I think is definitely a new visual aesthetic for Silent Hill.
Mostly because it's not dark and grey.
Yeah, it's not dark and grey at all. But I mean, from the like 6 seconds of new visuals that we actually get, it looks pretty interesting. But yeah, so what do we think? Silent Hill is back. Do people actually care about Silent Hill in the year 2022?
People really care about Silent Hill when it first came out in the in the 90s.
Well, I mean, kind of no, but people got really mad when they started making bad Silent Hill games. So,
Are they making number 2 because like that's the most popular one or the better one? I
you
assume?
see, Silent 2 is the one that has Pyramid Head in it.
Right,
And that's
okay.
like obviously the most iconic iconography of the series, so it makes sense that
Just
they would do that one.
Pure easy cash for them to remake that one.
Yeah. And they're like, I don't know, like Bloober Team has been like real hit or miss. Like obviously, I think Michael, you and I have talked about this in the past, but like the medium is not great. Like it's okay.
Yeah, I
like it-
fell pretty hard off that one. It
Yeah.
was like what it came out February, March after the Series X and Series S released, and I was like, oh cool, a new game to play. Played it for
Yeah,
a
it
few
was,
hours,
yeah.
I'm like, this is clunky.
Yeah. But like some of the other games, like Layers of Fear, I actually think is like a lot better than it has any right to be. It was made on like a very, very shoestring budget. And like, while it doesn't get the writing anywhere near what I would consider good, the atmosphere is just like incredible. And I think
Does-
atmosphere is really important to Silent Hill too. So
Does Bloober Team mostly make like horror games?
yes, yeah, it's their bread and butter. I think they exclusively make horror games. But
As
yeah,
far as
go
Silent Hill
Nick.
2 goes, I talked about this a bit earlier on my own thing, and I basically said that the only reason they're doing it is because it's easy money for them. It's the cheapest way for them to reignite the brand and to get people excited for anything else they do. I personally would have thought a collection, because Konami have done some pretty amazing collections over the past, 12, 18 months. Just a Silent Hill compendium, on consoles and PC would have been amazing. And I would have thought that would have been plenty to get people interested, but
I mean, the Resident Evil games have been doing really well with their remakes, and they completely recontextualize the way the games play in modern, I don't know, technologies or whatever you want to call it, like, the graphical capabilities of the games, the way, the gameplay elements of them, how they work, all those kinds of things. And like, in a way, I could agree that it's easy money, but it's also a really easy way to balls up the series. Like, if they make a bad remake, people don't like it. It's
Yeah.
like, ugh.
well,
Yeah.
RE3 didn't do so well, and that people didn't really gel with that one. RE2
Sure.
did really well, but 3
But-
was...
But I think, from what I remember, 3 was kind of the weaker of the original ones anyway, wasn't it? I know that like
Oh,
Nemesis
yeah.
was a big deal, but like as a game, people talk more about 2 and 4 more than 3.
Yeah, 3 was one of those ones where like the mechanics were more interesting than the game itself.
Yeah.
So like the Nemesis thing was like really interesting as a mechanical thing, but like it didn't lead to a good game. It was just an interesting mechanic.
Yeah. Like
But yeah,
I
I mean,
don't
like-
care about Silent Hill at all, but like seeing that there's going to be a modern version of Silent Hill 2, which ostensibly is like the most popular of the series from what I can recall. Like I'm interested to check it out, especially since I've been playing through the Resident Evil games lately as well. So I'd be keen to see what a modern Silent Hill looks like.
Although I do think it would have been nice to get like the originals like thrown up on all the
Yeah.
storefronts as well, because like that's something that like Capcom does with Resident Evil, right? Is
I
that
think
like,
that's
all
the
of
thing,
the
right?
games are on all of the other platforms, but then
Yeah.
they've got the new ones as well.
And that's definitely how I'm able to go back and play them, right? Is it like, Resident Evil 1 was free on like Xbox at some point, so I have it on that. 0 came out, was free at some point on PlayStation Plus, and they're currently on sale for Halloween, like the entire series on PlayStation Plus, on the PlayStation Store and stuff. So they're all
And
easily
Switch.
accessible. And Switch, sorry. Whereas Silent Hill, like, you're kind of screwed if you want to go back and play the originals.
Especially on PC, because like the PC version of Silent Hill 2 is dreadful. It is one of the worst conversions to PC that has ever existed. It doesn't run well on like original hardware. It runs even worse on modern hardware. And like there's like hundreds and hundreds and hundreds of like community fixes that you have to add, because pretty much every single part of that game is broken.
Gosh. Imagine making a game that requires hundreds of other people to then fix it 20 years
Well,
later.
apparently
Like
it was
games.
It was ported. It was ported from
Touche.
PS1. It was ported from PS1 to PC in about 2 months, which obviously is not a long enough time to port
Sounds
something
vaguely
properly.
familiar. Like Arkham Knight had the exact same problem, just from PS4 to PC.
But yeah, so Silent Hill's back. I think we will get that the no code game on Switch.
Well, the developers did drop Stories Untold on Switch. I'm not sure
Yes.
about Observation. I think that's PC and PlayStation. But
I don't think it's on Switch. I haven't looked though. 'Cause
Stories
I played it
Untold
on
is definitely on
PC.
Switch. And if you are a horror fan, you like a good, horror experience, Stories Untold is definitely worth checking out.
Moving on to our next thing. This is Pokemon related, but like they had a thematic reveal for Pokemon just in the past couple of days, which is a ghost dog called Greavid, which it's a pretty cute Pokemon. I think everybody can agree with that. It's sort of like a gravestone Pokemon that has a candle on its head. But I mean, if you watch, I linked a trailer, and like the Pokemon Company's been doing this thing over the past couple of years where like they're making like amateur snuff films. Like it's like no joke. Like this is like the 4th trailer that they've done in the past like 2 years, where it's had like a somebody like documenting something and getting like killed by a Pokemon. And that's exactly what happens here, because like the whole lore around Greavid, this new ghost dog, is that it's the like friendliest dog you'll ever meet, but like the more you play with it, the more it absorbs your life force, and then you die. So
That's dumb.
but I mean, like as far as like ghost Pokemon go, like that's pretty tame as in like how lore goes. There's a balloon Pokemon called
Drifloon?
something Drifloon, that's the one. And like its whole lore is that like it like evolved to look like a balloon because like children like to hold balloons, and then it would like drift towards humans and like children, and then steal their souls, take them away, and then eat them.
That's like a Japanese like folklore type thing, right?
Yeah.
You sure you're not playing Yokai Watch now, Ollie?
I know, right? Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, we all know Cubone's history or backstory.
Yeah. But yeah, so there's a lot of things like that. I think it's cute. It's probably going to evolve into something that looks hella dumb, but I mean,
A Pokemon that evolves into something that's not as cute as its original form? Never.
It's probably called Helladum.
But yeah, what do we think of the ghost dog Greavid? Just
Looks
from
cool.
a visual
I like
I mean-
dogs.
I think it looks cool until you explained it's basically a murder machine.
I
Yeah,
think
I
it looks
mean-
fine. I just wish the Pokemon Company would stop dropping, 50-second trailers every week.
Oh, it's so frustrating too, because like they don't like, this is only something that like affects like people who are covering it. So like most of the people watching and listening to this probably aren't going to be like annoyed by it at all. But what they'll do is like on like Tuesday they'll have like a teaser, and they'll say like in 24 hours there's going to be a trailer. and then 24 hours later, that trailer is like a teaser, and it doesn't actually give us any information, but it's like, oh, keep your eyes out for something else. And then like 24 hours after that, they actually reveal something, and then another 24 hours after that, they'll do all of the details for it. And it is so frustrating to cover, because it's like, I'm not going to write 5 articles about this like single Pokemon reveal. So we've just like stopped doing that. We're just like wait until all the information's actually out there.
I just
that's
brought
how
that
they-
up
that's-
just so Ollie would rant about Pokemon and join us on the dark side.
But that's how they get coverage though, is they get
Yeah.
people like you to write about it. So,
That's
yeah,
exactly it.
rough.
That's
Like,
why we're
that-
not playing their games anymore.
My joke about Dead Dogs before was a terrible joke. I'm terribly sorry. I shouldn't have said that.
Angelo is a fan of Alive Dogs.
Oh, I love Alive Dogs.
What about live dogs?
Are there any dogs in Live Alive?
I don't know. I was
I
trying
really
to
wanna
make a
play
really
that.
bad joke, and it didn't even make sense to me.
Also, like in sort of vaguely horror-related news, Resident Evil 8 Cloud is out on the Switch now. It costs $57. Don't buy it. I put out an article when Plague Tale Requiem came up. That was literally just don't spend $100 on a cloud game on your Switch. Like, why would you do that? I don't think you should spend any money on a cloud game on Switch. But if you're so inclined, it's available there.
I think it's fine if you're renting it, if you're paying $10 and they give you a week's access. Kind of like, renting games from Blockbuster or Video Easy or, whichever company you went to. If you're doing it that way, I think that's fine. But the whole, no, in order to play this, you have to buy it and you have to spend $80, $90 to actually own it, even though you don't own it, that's not acceptable.
Let's all learn from Google Stadia, please.
Oh
Yeah,
man,
Let's all take a big note.
what an
I'm like-
absolute shit show the end of that was.
I don't mind like the fact that like there's cloud streaming within Xbox Game Pass, because like I'm not paying for Xbox Game Pass because of the cloud streaming. Like, it's a nice added bonus that I can like play a game on my phone sometimes. But like a dedicated streaming service where you like have to pay full price for games, like that's not a sustainable business model, and those companies are going to go under, just like Stadia did.
Well, Stadia was worse than that. You subscribe to Stadia and then you buy the full price game.
Yeah.
So bad.
Um,
But just as an aside, I will say that for those who are inclined to tinker with their devices like I do and have hacked their original Switches, it's fantastic for playing Game Pass streaming on. It's so good. I love doing it. It runs really, really well. Yeah, highly recommended if that's what you're into.
Don't say that. You're gonna get kicked out of the Nintendo Ambassador program.
Oh no.
Yeah, I think
I
they
will say
ended
that-
that anyway.
I did go in, you modify your DNS settings and you can get like the Google homepage through the web browser on
Yep.
the Switch. I did that when the xbox.com/play, which is the website version of the streaming, went live. And I went to that on my Switch and it loads up fine, except when you go to play a game, it goes, you need to connect to control. I'm like, you son of a...
Yeah.
Yeah, the built-in browser doesn't have controller handling, so
Whereas
yeah,
like
it's
with
unfortunate.
hacking the Switch, you can get a specific version of Android that does run well with the controls and everything like that. It runs brilliantly, and it doesn't like affect the OS or anything like that. Nintendo doesn't find out that you've hacked your Switch or whatever if you install
Yeah.
everything on an SD card, not like on the Switch's NAND.
Moving on to our feature discussions, though. We actually have two because, for the special holiday episode, so why not? So the first one, Angela brought this up and I thought it was a really good discussion topic. I want to talk about the spooky games that terrified us as kids. Now, this isn't necessarily games that are scary, but games that did terrify us as kids because, there are
'Cause you're
things
dumb
that,
and
like,
everything's scary.
yeah, exactly. So Angela, because you brought this topic up, do you want to give us what you
Yeah, sure.
what you were
So-
afraid of?
So I've got two, but I'll start with one for now. And we can do the next person after this one. But mine is a little game on the Sega Master System that only OGs will remember, which is called Ghost House. And man, so the game itself, like the game doesn't like it's not like other, spooky games where things pop out at you and you're terrified for a second and then you laugh it off. The whole point of this game is that it's sort of like a cutesy looking platformer. You're this kid who goes into a ghost house and there are kind of ghosts jumping around. There's really sick music playing in the background. It's super good. It's a hellbop. But then you're tasked with trying to kill Dracula basically in this house. And there are all sorts of monsters and traps and stuff that you're trying to evade. And then once you finally awaken Dracula from his coffin, like just everything goes absolutely nuts. There's like strobe lights. There's this real hardcore sort of electronic music that plays, and Dracula flying like as a bat just starts flying around absolutely madly. And it's basically you're just so overwhelmed by how powerful he is as a character, and he just comes right at you. And like the only way you can defend yourself is by stabbing him with a little knife that you can collect. And if you don't have that knife, you're screwed. Like he'll just knock you off pathways and you just fall down to your death or something like that. And like, yeah, just this entire like kind of like sensory overload moment where you're just completely overwhelmed by this enemy character. Music's going absolutely bonkers. There's strobe lights going on and stuff. Just as like a little 5-year-old, like it just completely just takes you over. It's so, I don't know, visceral, which you don't really expect from an 8-bit like sprite-based game. But yeah, if you have a good couple of minutes, I'd highly recommend just checking out some footage of that game. Like it doesn't look scary at all, but then once you actually start playing it, like it just gets the heart racing real hard. It's so good.
Michael, what about you?
Well, we were talking about this prior to starting the recording. I don't really recall like being scared of a lot of games when I was a kid, like when I was like actually young. That's mostly probably because I didn't have access to a ton of scary games when I was a kid. Like I only really had like G and maybe a PG game. So really only started getting into like scary games, quote unquote, as I became a teenager. And I think I remember the first time actually being, I need to play this game with someone else because I can't handle this, is playing the first Resident Evil remake on GameCube. I just could not handle playing that game by myself, like at all. Like being in those corridors when there's like no music and it's silent and it's just your footsteps, that's all you hear. And then you might hear like a moan from around the corner. And because that game is like has fixed perspective, like you can't, hug a wall and, cheat the camera around the corner to see what's going on. You had to dive like, face first into whatever was around that corner. I just couldn't do it. I remember playing that game and Resident Evil 4 both together with one of my good mates when I was a teenager. Because we both couldn't handle playing them by themselves, so we just said, hey, let's just play through both these games together. And we used to make like, game nights out of it. I was just, I don't know. And to this day, I'm just not that great with scary games. It really depends on what the type of horror is. But for the most part, no. And we've talked about it before. Like, I hate being chased in games. Like, that's some like weird psychological thing for me. So like horror games usually have things chasing you. That's a big problem.
Was it scary because of the fixed camera angles and all that, or was it the tank controls that made it scary?
That is to the horror of the entire game. It wasn't too bad. Once you get used to it, it's fine. But I don't know.
Can I just jump on that as well? Like, so I recently just finished that game a few weeks ago for the first time. Like, my girlfriend and I going through the series at the moment, and yeah, man, I totally agree with you. I think part of the scariness of that as well is that the game is just it's complex in like what you have to do, but you don't know what it is you're supposed to do. Like you'll find an item and then you have no idea what you're supposed to do with that item.
Yeah.
You have to explore the whole damn house. And at any point, like if you don't kill a zombie properly, like if you just shoot the zombie and then you don't light it on fire to stop it from coming back, just a crimson head will be there, which is a stronger zombie, You have to waste even more ammo, and you're running out of health, and you don't have any ink ribbons to save with and stuff.
Totally, the item situation is cooked because again, like you said, you'll just find like a sun medallion, and you're like, cool. I guess I need to find a sun-shaped spot somewhere in the game that I can slam this thing into.
I have to go through the entire house to find it. Yeah, it's just nuts. But like I will say, like a lot of those styles of horror games became a lot easier. Well, at least this game became a lot easier for us when we played it with the walkthrough. Because not only then, like, do you know where to go, but you can read ahead a little bit and find out if there is an overwhelming enemy coming up, or where there's ammo and things like that. So,
Yeah, when there's a giant spider or a shark in a tank or something like that.
yeah, or
more
a giant
importantly,
snake.
You're heading to this room. Make sure you have these 3 items from your lockbox, so you don't have to run all the way back to the last save room that you remember.
Always keep your shotguns and your shotgun shells.
Yeah. I gotta say that it's so satisfying, like saving in that game with Ink Ribbon and
yeah.
just hearing the click clack of the typewriter is really,
it's-
really good.
It's when you walk into the save room and the music plays and you're like, oh, okay. Because
Yep.
every other room
You can
is
just
silent.
exhale.
Yeah, every other room's just silent. And like, yeah, just like you said, like there's a moaning zombie or there'll, some trees or something like that hitting the window outside. It's such an atmospheric game.
You
Though.
just
It
reminded
really-
me. When you're going down
does
that
it.
hallway and there's the trees hitting the window,
Yep.
and you go down, and a dog like jumps through the window.
Yep.
I'm like, God damn it, why?
And the room with the crows always got my girlfriend as well.
Oh man.
It's such a really atmospheric game. Like it absolutely nailed the atmosphere. But yeah, it does add up to a frustrating time.
Luke, you know any games that scared you as a kid?
Yeah, so I'm sort of similar to Michael in that I never really played any, scary games as a kid. I think the scariest I think I ever played was one of the Batman games on Super Nintendo, just because it was dark and weird. So for me, one of the very sort of, very early scary games that got me was Eternal Darkness on the GameCube.
That was going to be my number 2.
I did play Resident Evil on the PS1, with a friend at his place. He had the game and the console, and that was fine. But it wasn't scary. But Eternal Darkness with those sanity effects, you'd go into a room and then your arm would just fall off, and then your other arm and your head, you just become a torso, and then all of a sudden the game resets. And you're like, okay, what the hell happened? So you're forever not having an idea of what's going on. Yeah, it just got me. Every time a new sanity effect came in, I was never sure if it was the game breaking or, was I seeing things?
The save file.
The save
Oh,
file,
save file corruption.
the one that doesn't work. Today's TVs, the volume
The
controls.
volume down.
So,
Um,
it's
I think we've
such a
talked about this on
clever
the
game.
podcast before. That we're really interested to see if the game ever got remade, like what sanity effects they would try to do, like today. Because you have so many different like platforms that people are playing on. Like it would be very hard to find like a set of stuff that would work on everything. Or maybe they could just make sanity effects for specific platforms. That would also work as well.
Well,
Yeah.
I just wish that there were games that use the sanity meter as well. Like Eternal Darkness is really the only one that really did it well. There was another game that got announced recently that's doing that thing again. I can't remember which one it was. It wasn't Callisto Protocol, was it? Or Silent Hill?
Maybe.
No, Callisto Protocol is very, very just like Dead Spacey.
I thought there was another
never
game,
sanity, no.
another like third-person game that just got announced recently. That's because I remember reading that it's gonna have a sanity meter like in Eternal Darkness, but I can't remember what game it is. Anyway,
All I remember is there was the one sanity effect where, much like She-Hulk did, it went back to the GameCube load screen. It did the and I swore because I'm like I thought the console reset itself because of whatever. So I just rage quit and I hadn't saved for like 2 hours. I lost all the progress. I didn't know it was a sanity effect, and it
That's devastating.
it just when it happened the second time, I was like, oh god, maybe there's something wrong with my GameCube, and then went back to the game and I went, oh you son of a bitch! Like
It's
it
such a good
absolutely
effect.
destroyed me.
it was so clever. Yeah, the save file not working. The
Oh please
Something
insert a
about the game's-
controller not
Yeah.
responding in socket 1 or whatever.
Yeah.
You were like you're
100%.
running in, because it was
And
corded back then, so you had to like unplug it and plug it back in to see if it was working, and then the game would be like, ha, psych.
yeah,
They inverted the controls as well.
Yeah.
yeah.
Or you walk
really
into a
good
room and
shit.
you're on the ceiling. The
Mhm.
whole game world's
Yeah.
upside down.
It was so good. I noped hard out of that game at the scene where it was like halfway through the game where you walk into the bathroom and she's dead. In the
Oh
bathtub.
yeah,
Oh, yeah.
100%. And
Yeah.
it does that like really fast, like 3-frame jump into it as well. And it's like it's only up there for like maybe 3/4 of a second, but it's like it's brutal.
Yeah, I absolutely did that like Seinfeld gif where I'm just like, oh, nope, I'm out. Just hands up, put the controller down, done.
Oh man, such a great game.
What a game.
See, like, I think the thing is, again, I'm pretty sure we've discussed this in the past, but like, those kinds of like sound effects on like modern platforms are like really difficult to do because like under like the current like publisher agreements for all of the modern platforms, it's not allowed to do anything that simulates anything being wrong with your console or hardware. So like, if it can't like simulate like Joy-Con drift or you know the game crashing or anything like that. It's
I gotta
just like
say,
not allowed.
I don't think the game would need to simulate that. That's probably on a lot of people's like horror list.
Yeah, so unfortunately, like those kinds of things, it would be really difficult to do. But like having said that, you could do things like Wi-Fi disconnected or something like that, because that's not like any evidence of something wrong with your console. But yeah,
I would love if they ever remade it, they just got an just complete exemption from that, because I just feel like it's just so perfect and really makes the game what it is.
Well, there's that reminds me. There's the one DS game, Daffy Duck Duck Amuck. If you remember the old Looney Tunes cartoon, where the
classic
animators...
horror game.
Yeah, but the animators messing with Daffy, drawing in anvils instead of parachutes, all this sort of stuff, and they made a video game for that with the DS. And I remember thinking, this is great. And there was one specific thing that you needed to do to trigger a specific thing, and it was to make it dark. And back then, if you closed the DS, it went to sleep. That's what the DS did. And then for this one, they got permission from Nintendo to overwrite that functionality via the game. So when you closed it, Daffy was like, "Hey, what's going on? It's dark in here. I can't see anything." He'd freak out because you closed the DS on him. And then they did something similar with Phantom Hourglass or Spirit Tracks, one of them.
Yeah, with one puzzle, we just close it and that's it.
Yeah. Which is why that game would never work on modern phones unless you snap your phone in half. But yeah,
or if you have a Samsung Galaxy Z Flip 4.
All that. But yeah, so when they do make those exceptions, they developers do make good use out of them. So if they did make the exceptions, I think it could be amazing.
So my one is something I've spoken about at length before on the podcast, and it didn't really scare me so much as it just like sort of unsettled me, and that was 2004's classic point-and-click adventure game by Sing, Glass Rose on the PlayStation 2. Again, I've spoken about this at length, so I won't get like too deep into it. But like, it is a deeply unsettling game that is all about like choices, the choices that you make, and like if you don't do things fast enough, then like the entire story changes. But the game like doesn't really ever tell you that like you're sort of on the clock. Like there's a clock there, and it'll like tell you how much time has passed like in the in-game world, but like it doesn't tell you at all that like all of your actions are affected by how fast you're doing them, and how the story plays out changes drastically depending on what you do and when you do it. But there's obviously a psychological horror game. There are like people that get like murdered on the screen and stuff, and it's like just completely batshit crazy. But it's really, really good. I mean, it's not a good game. It's really, really good atmosphere. And it's like one of those games where it's like at the very, very tail end of like point and click games. So like it feels kind of like, it's very much stuck in the past, but then there's aspects of it that's like, wow, this was like really forward thinking and not something any other games were doing at the time. Because like selling a point and click game in 2004, you really had to be experimental about it and try new things. Yeah, there are a lot of things where like, I think when we played through it, me and my sister, I think at the time when we started playing through it, like we didn't have like a memory card for our PS2, as is often the case when you're a child, and you just like play games, and then when the PS2 turns off, you play them again the next time. But like having like drastically different things happen each time we played because we did things in a different order or whatever, or like we forgot and just like left the console on for like a couple minutes and like just having just drastically different things happen was like a deeply unsettling experience for me, because I hadn't seen anything like that before where like things could change so much. So yeah, there are like obvious like horror elements in there as well, but like just the fact that it was like something just completely foreign to me up until that point was more unsettling than anything else.
I never had a
said-
GameCube memory card when I got that, so I played through all of Luigi's Mansion without saving. Got to the boss fight and died.
Oh my god.
So until they re-released it on the 3DS, I never touched that game again because I got so angry.
You mentioned Atmosphere before, and it just like triggered a memory of that sick VHS board game from the 90s called
Nightmare?
Atmosphere.
Oh,
No, well, yeah, there was two, Nightmare and Atmosphere. And I'm like, man, we really need like specifically VHS board games to come back, so only people who are old can play them.
you have to buy an entire VCR with that as well.
I mean, Atmosphere itself is like a thing that still exists.
Yeah, didn't it
It's
get
just like-
it got kickstarted for like a remake or something?
Yeah.
Yeah?
So it uses like an app, and then you like cast that app to the television, and then everybody else can like kind of sometimes interact on their own phones as well. It's like kind of just like a very poor man's Jackbox game kind of thing, but
Yeah.
Well, Supermassive
it's
Games
fun
did
enough.
something similar for PlayStation. They did Until Dawn, and then they did a few sort of short horror
yeah.
games where you used your mobile phone
Yeah.
to play.
Yeah.
Can't remember what they were.
there was like a
Playlink or
collection or
something.
yeah
something like
Playlink. There were a couple like really interesting things in there, but like as a concept, it never really took off because like
No.
people like
Side
party
note.
games more than they like
We
actual
need-
games.
We need peripheral games to come back. I know that sounds
Buzz.
really dumb and everyone hated them. Like, I get it. But man, I loved Buzz. I love SingStar. I love Rock Band. Like, let me buy $700 pieces of plastic that I can only use once to play a goddamn game. I really want it.
SingStar existed without peripherals for a while there. Like you just use your phone. To sing
Yeah.
into it,
Yeah,
so,
right. Totally did.
Yeah, I mean, Just Dance.
I don't know if-
They let you use your phone now, so
Hmm.
Although, if you're looking for something on the Switch, there is a series called Let's Sing, and if you buy it physically, it does come with shitty plastic microphones.
Yeah, I bought it from my nephew for Christmas last year because he loves singing. So we have them.
they did
It's-
just release a new version. It's an ABBA themed one.
They did. 'Cause, you know,
the
older
only-
kids
only
love
singing
ABBA
game I've-
these days.
The only singing game I've bought myself was Let's Sing on the Wii U. Which is
You
the
joke
one-
about ABBA,
the one where
but
you had to
people-
have the gamepad sideways so it would have the lyrics on it like a karaoke machine.
Hmm.
You joke about ABBA, but there are a surprising amount of teenagers out there who still love ABBA.
Yeah.
Most
I mean,
of
I
them because
don't
their parents
doubt it.
listened to it when they were growing up and it's now just
Yeah.
forced on them.
Much like a lot of music tastes. A lot of my music tastes happen from what my parents listened to as a kid. 100%.
I have the complete opposite music taste to my parents, man. I hate ABBA. I hate ABBA so much.
I remember playing Lips on Xbox 360. They had that sweet wireless microphone that had like, lit up.
The fact that Lips let you import your own songs, didn't put lyrics on the screen or anything, but you could actually just import your own music. That was
Yeah.
amazing.
And then like some sort of like DNA of those kinds of games is like still around, and things like the new Rocksmith, which is
Yeah,
more about
Rocksmith
like
is
learning
awesome.
guitar, but it's still kind of like the same thing.
And Rock Band 4 still exists. I mean, you can't get the peripherals anymore, but the game, you can still buy the game for some reason. I guess if you want to sing, you can or use like a guitar you found maybe. But they release music for it every single week. Like it's nuts.
I'm still waiting for the Guitar Hero Switch, where I have to plug in an accessory to the bottom and then hold my Switch sideways and strum across the screen. Like the
I love
DS
how it went
version.
from scary games to guitar.
Sorry,
Hero and-
that's
and
totally
Lips.
my fault.
To be fair though, that is kind of scary if we all have to start buying $800 worth of plastic equipment every 12 months.
I mean,
isn't that what we all
you might have to
with
do that.
Joy-Cons currently.
God damn it! I couldn't even get in.
Moving on to like the second part of our feature discussion, I wanted to quickly discuss sort of like what makes a video game scary, because like it's not always just like jump scares and stuff that makes it scary. So one of the things that like I don't know if I've actually brought this up in the past, but there was something like actually like I had a physical reaction. I had like pretty close to a panic attack when booting up Mario Maker on the Wii U for the first time. And this is like a weird thing to bring up in a discussion about scary games. But I started playing like user levels, and like I got such anxiety from it that I had to like return the game, because like it was uncomfortable for me to like play something that was like so familiar with all the Mario iconography and everything Mario, but then like have players be cruel about it, where you could just like die for no reason. And like now I've like kind of gotten to the point where like I really love Mario Maker 2. Playing user levels is a great deal of fun. But there was just like dread and anxiety attached to that first experience of me playing Mario Maker, where I was like, I don't know, it was just like my brain was like, Miyamoto wouldn't do this. He wouldn't like fuck me over and like put me over, like let me go through a door and put me over like a pit of spikes. But there was just like a huge disconnect in my brain, and that like caused me anxiety, and I was like having physical reactions to like how anxious this game was making me.
You're just like, my game is cursed.
Yeah, I was just, I don't know. It was just very, very weird for me. I've never had like that sort of a visceral reaction to a game before, but Mario Maker on the Wii U did it somehow. But Michael, you mentioned that like you hate being chased, and I think like I think in games where there's chasing, I think there's as much fear in being chased as in not being chased. Because like, I think about something like Metroid Dread, where like there are like clear sections where you're being chased, and like those are usually telegraphed. But there are points throughout Metroid Dread where the creatures, the Emmys, like can just like roam around kind of anywhere. Not anywhere, but like they get out of those like confined areas, and like do start chasing you, and like just the idea that like anything can chase you at any time, and it's like I'm not being chased right now, but at any time I could start getting chased. I think that is a terrifying thing in games, and it's the kind of thing you can only do with games.
100% agree.
Yeah. Luke, what do you think makes a game actually scary?
Season passes.
And battle passes too.
Battle passes, season passes, cosmetic shops, all that crap. No, the thing that makes a game scary for me is like just a good atmosphere. Like jump scares, they lose their appeal after like an hour, because there's only so many times they can do it before you start guessing where the jump scares are going to be. But a game that can build an atmosphere where just you standing still feels wrong, because the game world itself is just built in such a way that it's going to cause you some grief down the line. Whatever that grief happens to be, it's irrelevant, but just when you're sort of sitting there. And also whisper chanting. You know, when you're walking through and you just hear whispers, and then it's all echoey and all that in the background, that drives me insane.
How'd you go with Control?
It was fine. It wasn't so bad. Mostly because I had a gun. I was shooting everything.
Yeah, I mean, having a gun will definitely make scary things a lot less scary.
Especially one with infinite ammo.
Yeah.
Yeah. Angela, what about you?
I think atmosphere, but I think what really helps with atmosphere is sound and music. So like, you know, as I mentioned before with Ghost House, you know, when the music kicks in, like it just gets the heart racing, it just gets you panicking, you can't really think straight. Metroid 2, Return of Samus was the same thing on Game Boy. It was my first Game Boy game, but I couldn't finish that game for a good 10 years or so after I got it. When I was like 6 or something like for Christmas. And I got to like the first Metroid, and the music just kicks in, and the Metroid just starts moving really erratically, but the music again is what kind of kicks in and started making me panic a little bit. I think just since then, like it's sound design that really does it for me. It's you know, very subtle audio cues where things just aren't quite right. You know, you just hear those footsteps, or you just hear something that you know, you're walking through a passageway and everything seems fine, and then you hear something that just makes you realize, okay, something different's happening at the moment. Like before, talking about playing through the Resident Evil games, my partner and I are going through Resident Evil 2 at the moment, the remake. And we were cruising along just fine, you know, laughing our way through the game, shooting the dumb zombies and all this kind of stuff. And now we're at the point where Mr. X is chasing us. And now we're actually at panic stations because we're smooth sailing through that game. Like, you know, getting through the lickers, everything like that, no problems, they were scary. But now we're at the point where we can't just run through an area. Like, as soon as you walk into a room, you hear like Mr. X walking around above you, and you're like, oh crap, hold on, we gotta backtrack now. We gotta be really quiet, you know. And it's just that kind of panic, that sense of urgency when you realize that something is like on top of you, or something's nearby that you just can't see. Yeah, I think atmosphere and definitely sound really help with it. Like jump scares, like something flashing in front of your face is like an easy sort of like momentary like okay, like it just got me. I wasn't expecting that. But yeah, sound,
Yeah,
because you just can't
but-
see something happening. Really is what gets you.
I think like jump scares are more shock than they are fear, right?
Yeah.
It's like you're not really like scared. You don't feel dread. It's just like, oh, that was very surprising. But like it's not. I don't know. I think games that rely on
There's
jump
technically
See,
a jump
have not
scare in,
seen
Mario
the,
plus Rabbids.
The jump scare compilations on YouTube to see some real fear.
Yeah, I hated those like back in the day when you'd get like one of those like 2-minute long gifs where it was just a static image and then you just see like some dead chick's face at the end. It's like, oh jeez, I have to go pray now.
Dead Space was one of those games that really did atmosphere and music really well. I remember playing through like just the opening like 20 minutes. You know, you don't know what's going on in the ship. You're walking through, and it's this kind of eeriness about everything. And then you hear this like pipe, like tool, whatever, just fall. And it wasn't in the room you're in. It was just off in the distance, and the sound just carries through the Ishimura, and you're just like, what the hell was that? And then you'd hear another noise. A few minutes later, they just kept layering all these things together, and then eventually something would burst through the wall and to have a go at you. I just remember that one especially being, because that was the first real game that was like, we're building a world of scary. We're not just populating it full of scares.
Yeah, on this specific subject, this is going to be the thing I was going to bring up. Like a thing, scary and not scary. Like it works both ways. But one of the things that I've always loved, and I think is still probably the best version of this I've seen, and the game is from 2009, is the AI director from Left 4 Dead 2.
Oh yeah.
The way the game analyzes the way you're playing, the guns you have, what melee weapons you have, the amount of ammo you have, how much health each character has, your health packs, your items, like everything, how fast you're moving through the game, to really build an amazing experience that is unique every single time you go through is just awesome. And so many games have tried to do this and have just failed. And I'm like, every single time I play through Left 4 Dead 2, I just find it like, I just don't believe how well they nailed this so long ago. That, you can go through and, there might be a witch around this corner, or you might get a special infected at some point. That, you get it when, three of your teammates are down and you're fighting a horde of zombies. Like the game ramps up difficulty and brings down difficulty like super, super well, and makes you feel like you're in trouble exactly when you need to feel like you're in trouble, which is just amazing.
I have to admit, I've never played through a Left 4 Dead game. I've only played like little bites of it.
Oh, dude, anytime you want to play, let me know. I am down. I love that game so much.
I was going to say, we have a team of 4 here. We should absolutely do a stream.
I'd do it.
Left 4 Dead.
I just love the fact that the developers of that game, so Valve are the ones that everyone classes. It's like, they didn't make it, they oversaw it. But Turtle Rock Studios, and they did Back 4 Blood last year, where they brought in that same system, and they're like, oh, we're adding in cards that you can modify things, and it didn't work.
See,
like,
looking at what they did with Back 4 Blood, I would seem to argue that Valve had a lot more input into Left 4 Dead than a lot of people realize, because I don't think they captured the essence of Left 4 Dead really like at all. Like it just isn't good.
But my point is that they tried to bring in that same system.
Yeah, and they didn't do it well at all.
And it just didn't. Yeah, which goes to show that sometimes a game that's 10 years old, 15 years old, if it's built right, it still works today, regardless that the visuals are not quite the same. Things don't look as sharp or as beautiful as they did when it came out. But good gameplay design will carry a game for decades.
Yeah, I mean that's like one of the things that like endears me so much to the Silent Hill series is that like Silent Hill 1's gameplay design, and specifically its sound design, is just like absolutely phenomenal, and I think in the horror space almost unmatched. Because like when I played Silent Hill 1, there's something like deeply affecting about like how when the character that you're playing as gets scared and they start like breathing heavily and stuff, and like you find yourself, even though like you're not specifically scared, you find yourself like breathing heavily as well. But then like there's like things where you're like going through Silent Hill and like you're just like walking on a footpath, and then you hear like a twig snap, and it's like, well, I'm nowhere near trees. Why am I hearing like twig snapping sounds? And like that sort of like unsettling, those like small unsettling sound moments, really make a huge difference in just like because it makes you wonder like, why is this happening? Is something coming to attack me? Yeah, it's sound design really carries Silent Hill, which I think is like where a lot of the later Silent Hill games sort of like fell back a bit, is that like a lot of them had like music playing a lot of the time, or like just didn't really pay all that much attention to sound design. But I think in Silent Hill and most horror games, when there's absolutely nothing happening at all, there's like just very little sound, environmental sound happening. Those are the moments where you can really just like dial up the horror just through really good sound design.
I mean, you put a horror movie on and you turn off the volume, it's just a lot of blood on screen. It's not that scary. But if you turn the visuals off and just have the soundtrack, that'll still scare you.
Yeah, because your brain is really good at filling in information from sound alone. And like, obviously our brains are real dumb and just like imagine things that could not possibly happen. But I think that's where like leaving those gaps in sound and game design for the brain to fill in, that's a really good way to make an effective horror game. Let's move on to our 20 questions, because we've been recording for like almost an hour now, so getting towards the end. I picked this game. Obviously, I picked it myself. I didn't get people to specifically send in Halloween-related ones. So yeah, lay it on me. Questions.
Okay. We will start as we always start. Was this game released after 2000? So after 2010. God damn it.
It was released after 2010.
Okay.
Sorry, I have to be specific here. Was it? Does that mean 2011 onwards or 2010 onwards?
2011 onwards.
Okay.
It doesn't make much of a difference. It's the same. In this specific case, yeah, it was later than 2010.
Okay.
Was this game? Is this game originally released? Sorry, was this game originally released in this period? So it's not like a re-release of an older game.
Yeah, it was originally released in this period.
Okay.
Was this on a disc-based console?
In its original release, no.
Okay.
When this game was originally released, did it play on only one screen?
No.
So 3DS?
Well, I guess basically that means it's not on Switch, because Wii U, DS, and 3DS all have two screens.
But I guess it wasn't originally released on a disc console, so that means cartridge console.
Yeah.
We could just ask, I guess.
I mean, if you want to be, specific and try and narrow it down, sure.
Yeah, I
If it was a DS game released in the first 3 months of 2011, I'm going to be so mad.
Alright, was this game released on 3DS?
It was released on 3DS.
Cool.
Okay, good.
So it could be... okay. Oh. Are we assuming this game is horror themed?
We can just ask that question. Narrow it down.
We could.
Could be Luigi's Mansion 2, Dark of the Moon.
Yeah. There's also the Resident Evil. Well, because I asked,
Revelations.
I asked if it was
whatever.
originally released on this platform, and Dark Moon's only ever been on that, whereas the Revelations released there
That's true.
first and then came to the others. I just remember the boat. Not the boat in the game, the 3DS boat controller adapter.
Oh yeah.
The
Speaking of
Resident Evil
peripherals,
3DS games, like what were they called?
Revelations.
Revelations.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I was making a joke about the misprint on the cover, Revelatons or whatever.
Revelaton.
Capcom had a few of those at around that time. All right. Did we ask if this was a horror game, or we were going
No.
to, and then we didn't? All right. Is this game considered a horror game?
Is considered a horror game, yes.
Okay.
But it's probably not Luigi's Mansion, because let's face it, Luigi's Mansion is not a horror.
Was this game published by Capcom?
This game was published by Capcom.
Is there another horror?
Yeah, I
Game
feel like we're
series?
being like misled here.
Yeah.
Because there were two Resident Evil games in the Revelation series, but then there was also a Mercenaries 3D game.
hmm
What else did Capcom do?
There wasn't like a crappy Dead Rising or anything, was there?
I mean, there was one on the Wii, but definitely not on the 3DS.
What was that one called? Was that like Chop to Your Drop or something?
Dead Rising, chop to your drop, because every Wii game had to have some weird, wacky subtitle.
Oh boy. What a time. Yeah, I can't think of any other Capcom games then. That would be it.
Is this game in a series that is still being developed today?
Yes, it is.
It's gotta be Resident Evil.
It has to be. Like, was it the Silent Hill 3DS game? There wasn't, right?
There was a Silent Hill game on DS, I believe.
That's
but
Konami, right?
It was published by
Oh,
Capcom.
it was Konami.
so-
Yeah, of course.
Does this game have zombies in it?
That is a
Oh.
difficult question to answer.
Oh wait, was that a stupid question?
They're probably not called zombies in the game. They're
Yeah,
called something else.
I never played Revelations. I just assumed there were zombies, but you're on a ship, right?
Yeah, you start off on a ship.
Is it Las Plagas, like RE4? I actually don't know. I've never played it either.
It's been a while since I've played it now.
I remember they looked like clickers from The Last of Us. I think, if memory serves.
I'm gonna say yes, just because, like, you know, for all intents and purposes, they're kind of zombies.
So it's kind of one of those things like Days Gone. They called them. Oh god, I can't remember what they called them. Like walkers.
Freakers.
Like, freakers. That's it. And then Walking Dead calls them walkers, but they're all zombies. Just they have to call them a different name to be different.
Do they call them zombies in Resident Evil? I can't even remember. No one has so far in my playthrough.
I think they do at some point, or it might be in one of those
Hmm.
pages you pick up.
Hmm. Just ask as part of the Resident Evil series.
Yeah, I was going to ask that.
Is it part of the Resident Evil series?
Is part of the Resident Evil series, yes.
Yeah, it has
Okay.
to be. I can't think of any other Resident Evil games on
There was
3DS.
there was definitely another one, right?
There was Revelations 2, and then there was that Mercenaries
Yeah, Mercenaries one. That was one I was trying to think of.
3D.
Is this game part of a sub-series?
Yeah, it's part of a sub-series.
That doesn't narrow it down because Revelations is technically part of a sub-series.
Revelations is the sub-series.
Yeah, but
The
so is
series would be-
Mercenaries.
Yeah, but I guess, yeah, so is Mercenaries,
Oh,
yeah.
is it?
Yeah, I guess, technically.
Dude, I'm just burning questions over here. Someone else talk. Jeez.
You got plenty to burn.
Yeah, I feel like I think we're good.
We got 8 questions and a guess to go.
Yeah.
I know.
Ah,
because
okay,
Right
is
above
this-
us, there's a fancy bar now that tells us.
Is this game a sequel to
Itself.
the original game in the series? In the sub-series?
It is not a sequel to the original game in the sub-series. Jesus Christ, you want to get more specific?
Oh my god. So, okay, it has to be Revelations 1? Like, I guess... Like, unless we're missing something
Did
Did
obvious.
this game originally release with a misprint in its title on the cover?
Nice one.
Yes, it did.
How much more granular can we get?
How many questions do we have left?
You've got 6 more, I guess. But I do want to point out that I do have a backup one in case you got this one quickly.
Okay, cool.
Okay.
And you're probably going to want the backup one, so.
Oh, okay. All right.
Is
So
it-
is this? Oh, go. You can go.
No, yeah, no, please.
Is this game Resident Evil Revelations on Nintendo 3DS?
Alrighty. So, released in 2012 on the Nintendo 3DS, and then later ported to Microsoft Windows, PlayStation 3, Wii U, Xbox 360, PlayStation 4, Xbox One, and Nintendo Switch. This game is set shortly after the events of Resident Evil 4 and follows the counter-terrorism task force and Jill and Chris Redfield as they uncover the truth behind a bioterrorist organization. It is Resident Evil Revelations, and just for the record, they call the zombies bioweapons.
Yeah, okay.
They're never actually called zombies. And in this specific case, it's more of like mutated humans, because like they're not dead, they're like very much still alive. They've just been taken over by a horrible disease, essentially. Something called T Abyss, which is like a variation of the T virus that also keeps the host alive. So yeah, really good game on
Classic.
3DS. Really good game on Switch. And every other platform too, I guess. But I do have another one that I think is going to be much harder for you to get. So
Yeah.
So I'm
can't wait.
just stuck in here laughing in my own head about the fact that it was released on Microsoft Windows as opposed to Apple Windows.
well, I mean, it was very specifically released on the Microsoft Windows platform. It says that on the website, so
Oh no, I know that. It's
gotta
just like
say.
I just laugh out they have to call it Microsoft Windows as opposed to all the other Windows that are made by other companies. It just makes me laugh every time I hear it. So
All right, cool. Shall we? All right.
Yeah.
To please, Angelo, was this game released in 2010 or after?
You could just say like the
It was-
2010s or the 2000s.
Never.
Makes so much more sense.
It was not released in 2010 or after.
Okay.
all right.
So it was prior. Was this game released in the 90s?
This game was released in the 90s.
Yeah, boy. So it was Spooker on a Nintendo platform in the 90s. It's not Night Trap, because Nintendo would never release Night Trap on a Nintendo system.
I mean, it could be Resident Evil 2 that hit N64.
Can you imagine if I did Resident Evil back to back? That would be amazing.
Should we narrow down console?
Yeah, we have to.
All right. Was this game released on a handheld console?
It was not released on a handheld console.
Goodbye, Resident Evil for Game Boy.
Could you imagine playing a Game Boy game and being... Oh no, this is stupid. I was going to say I'm being scared. And then I remember that I just told my story about being scared. of a
Yeah,
Game
did that
Boy
literally
game.
just happen? Oh my god, that's great.
Dumb.
Okay, so was this
Well,
Should
if
we
it's
now-
console, it's either 64, Super NES, or potentially very late NES.
Virtual Boy.
I was gonna go. Was this game released on 64?
It was not released on the 64.
Okay, so probably SNES. Do you want to again narrow it down? I think we should.
Yeah, man, I love burning questions. Was this game released on the Super Nintendo?
Yeah, it was released on the Super Nintendo.
Alright.
Oh man, scary games on SNES. Damn.
I mean, Castlevanias, they could technically be considered scary games. Super Metroid could be considered a scary game.
Yeah.
Depending on how afraid you are of plumbers, Super Mario World could be considered a scary game.
Ghouls and Ghosts, Ghosts and Goblins, whatever it's called.
Super Ghouls and Ghosts, Super
Yeah.
Ghosts and Goblins. Yeah, who knows?
Ooh. Oh, how do I ask this question? So there was a PS1 game that had a translation called Clock Tower, which I think had a SNES original, but I don't really know much. Oh, I think it's a point and click. I guess I can ask that.
Sure,
Is
I
this
have
a-
no idea what game you're talking about. So
Yeah, me neither.
Sorry, this is like a real deep cut. Is this a point and click game?
It is not a point and click game.
Okay, cool. Alright, don't worry about it.
it could be Vegas Stakes on Super Nintendo. When you lost all your money, that game was horrendous. It's a casino game.
Fair enough. Was this game developed in Japan?
No, it wasn't developed in Japan.
Okay. Could be Doom.
I mean, I think it's a safe bet, but I assume it's a horror game.
Well,
Like-
Doom was technically horror at the time.
Oh yeah, no, I'm not saying that Doom wasn't. I was more of a
yeah,
yeah, like a roll on the same page.
yeah. It's just that Nintendo wasn't releasing many scary games or anything like that at the time. That wasn't their audience.
Hmm.
So I'm trying to think what was on there that would be classified as such.
Well, we don't know the developer at this point.
We don't. You got any ideas?
I mean, if we assume it was a Nintendo published title, the only really external developer from Japan that I know of is Rare. And the only game I could think it would be Killer Instinct, but I don't think that has Super Nintendo release, did it?
It could be a multi-platform game.
True.
Like, what level of horror did like SNES actually have?
That's
there
what
was
I'm
that-
curious about.
Zombie and My Neighbors game, but like it gets its horrific in the sense that it,
Has
contains
in it.
zombies.
And like Maniac Mansion, but that was NES, wasn't it?
Yeah, that one came out on NES.
Was this game multi-platform?
Not originally, no.
Okay, so that says that it got a re-release elsewhere.
Yeah, I mean, I'll give that to you for free. It has had re-releases
Yeah.
since its original release, but it wasn't like, it released on Super Nintendo and then like
And
2
the
years
Mega
later
Drive.
on the Mega Drive or whatever. It was, at the time, contemporarily, it was a Super Nintendo game.
So again, we're assuming it's horror. We haven't clarified, but an
We can just
exclusive.
ask the question.
horror.
We just got one back. So,
Okay.
Is this game considered a horror game?
I wouldn't consider it a horror game.
God damn it, Ollie.
Oh damn!
We're here pulling our hair out. You're just
But-
like,
Maybe
Oh,
it is the
oh,
Zombies and My Neighbors then. Like,
was that a point and click game though? I never played it.
no, I think it's just
No.
a
It's like a
not a
top-down
platformer. Yeah.
yeah, platformer, puzzly sort of game.
Okay. Can try rolling with that.
I wouldn't classify it as a platformer though. It's like an action game, I guess.
Yeah, it's kind of
Can I
more
ask-
like Bomberman 64, like top-down style that way.
Can I
Yeah,
ask
like
if this game had zombies in it. It's in the title.
I guess. Okay, does this game have zombies in it?
It does have zombies in it, yes.
Okay.
There we go. Explicit.
You could ask if the zombies ate your neighbors.
Can I ask if your neighbors are in it?
Well, no, they're not, because he's been eaten by zombies.
Yeah, they've been eaten. They're out.
I'm just trying to think of any other games on Super Nintendo that have zombies in it that aren't classed as horror. I mean, Earthworm Jim had some hell-based levels, but I don't think there were zombies in those.
Think of like specifics about the zombies game, the Zombies and My Neighbors that I could ask, but like
I mean, okay, was this game developed in America?
I'm gonna say like, yes, you would consider it to be developed in America.
okay.
There's an asterisk next to that I'll explain, but it won't factor into your deliberations.
Hmm. Do you shoot a gun in this game?
Yes. You shoot a gun in this game.
Now I'm really lost.
I mean,
Because in Zombies Ate My Neighbors, you have a weapon.
yeah.
Okay.
Isn't it a ray gun?
I don't remember. I think it's just a gun.
Might be a
I can't.
water pistol.
Honestly,
I just remember it looks funky.
is it a water pistol? It could be a water pistol. I don't play it in so long, like maybe more than a decade.
I was tempted to get it when it released on Switch and that twin pack, and then I was like, I don't really. Now I'm thinking I should have. Jesus.
I clarify this any further. I don't remember enough about the game to ask more questions about it. I guess we can meta question it.
Well, there was also the sequel. Well, the sequel slash
What's
spin-off.
Has it been re-released on another platform? On like another platform?
Yeah,
I actually have no idea.
Because when we asked the question if it was multi-platform, he said not at the time.
Yeah, so no, but has it been re-released since then? Like I don't know.
It's on Switch and
Yeah,
PS5 and all that.
He implied that it's been re-released since.
It's one of those LucasArts releasing their old games things.
Oh, so it's made by LucasArts. Have you asked that?
No, I asked if it was made in America because I knew LucasArts was, San Francisco.
Okay. Shall we? I feel like that's an important point we could ask.
Sure.
Was this game? Well, wait, was it developed or published by them?
Based on the little asterisk Ollie said, I'm guessing it's like developed and published by LucasArts, but work was done primarily by another team in another country.
Right.
You just say, did LucasArts have anything to do with the production of the game?
Yeah. Okay. Cool. Yeah. That question that was just asked. Go.
Yes, LucasArts had something to do with this game.
Okay. So it's got to be this then.
Yeah.
Like how many other zombie titles did LucasArts make for SNES?
Well, hang on. They put bloody giant scorpions in Super Star Wars, so let's not assume it's not one of them.
Oh man.
How many more questions do we have left?
7 questions and a guess.
Okay, so Ollie, did zombies eat my neighbors?
That's way too on the nose.
All right. Why don't we just meta question it then? Have we mentioned this game?
I don't believe you have mentioned this game.
What? You could have
Oh,
just said no to my
no.
question then.
No. There is a sequel, and it's a very similar name. It's like Zombie Ate My Neighbors, and then Zombie Ate My something or other, babysitter or something. No. Yeah, Zombie Ate My Babysitter.
I told you it was going to be difficult.
Okay.
I can see it in my head. I just can't.
You could ask if this is a sequel. Was that also released on Super Nintendo?
Yeah.
You could just ask if it was a sequel then.
Yeah. Is this game considered a sequel?
This game is considered a sequel.
Okay.
Oh man, I
So
got no
look at
idea. I've got no clue what the sequel to this game would be called. If it even is the sequel to this game.
You could just ask if it's the sequel to Zombies Ate My Neighbors.
Oh yeah, cool. Is this game the sequel to Zombies Ate My Neighbors?
It is the sequel to Zombies Ate My Neighbors.
All right, there we go. Well, that's it. We don't know the name of it.
Oh, hang on.
I don't know if I knew the game had a sequel.
Yeah, I didn't know. I didn't know the name of that one. Did the zombie also eat my babysitter?
I think I'm getting that mixed up with the movie.
There's a movie?
Something about a babysitter. Ghoul Patrol? Hang on, I'm trying to...
Should we say anything at this point? I'm like, okay.
We literally have it, just not the title. So I would consider this a
Isn't
win,
that the
by way.
important part?
No, I'm pretty sure it's Ghoul Patrol. I'm... Because when this was announced for Switch, it wasn't officially announced, and I remember we ran a story on Vooks for it, and I remember trying to find the artwork, and I remember staring at the artwork for Zombie Ate My Neighbors, and I think it was Ghoul Patrol.
Does this game have ghoul in the title?
This game does have ghoul in the title.
Hey, you're right there, Luke. You're right there. Just grab it. Just kiss it.
Mate, that guess is as good as any because I will have no goddamn idea.
I have no idea.
Is this game Ghoul Patrol?
Alrighty.
If it's like Ghouls and Ghosts 2 or something, I'd be so mad.
So this game was nominally developed by LucasArts, but most of the development was done by a Malaysian studio called Motion Pixel, and was published by JVC, of all companies.
Okay.
Who knew that they were a Switch publisher,
They gave out prizes on her.
or a Super Nintendo
on
publisher rather.
Funny Stone Videos. There you go. Damn it.
Yeah, they did.
That joke went way too long. I'm sorry.
And then re-released by Lucasfilm Games on PC, Switch, and Xbox One. It is Ghoul Patrol. So it is a sequel to Zombies Ate My Neighbors. It is very loosely a sequel to it. Most people think it's a worse game, but I think the fact that there's a lot more to do makes it better.
I am so glad I asked that meta question because we were all in on Zombies Ate My Neighbors.
So that's why I picked Ghoul Patrol, because like everybody knows at least of Zombies Ate My Neighbors, and like Ghoul Patrol basically follows the exact same premise. It has the exact same gameplay because it's in the same engine, and has the exact same protagonists in it. So like most of the questions that you could have asked about Zombies Ate My Neighbors would also apply to Ghoul Patrol.
That's rough.
Yeah, but you still got it in the end. Yeah, so it's on Switch, Xbox One, and PC now. I don't know about PS4. I thought it was, but Wikipedia says that it's not.
Get out on SNES. I just didn't know it even existed. Like that floated by me completely.
Pretty sure
It was
the things that them standing on a trampoline or something, or bouncing off a trampoline with zombies around them.
Yep. Yeah. It's actually it does one of those things where it's like, oh, here's all like these movie references, which like they're not good movie references, but like I mean back in the 90s, why not? But yeah, it's a really fun game, even if it's not a particularly great game, and it has multiplayer, which is a great deal of fun as well. But it is like a top-down run and gun, at times kind of bullet helly kind of game, and yeah, it's on modern platforms now. So
It's on sale right now for $9.37.
There you go.
For
Go
the two
buy
of
it.
them.
I will be buying it straight after this. 'Cause damn, I love that game. I actually bought the cartridge of Ghoul Patrol from a tip shop in 2001, and just like played the shit out of it. And then like I would like try to get like my friends at school to like come over and play Ghoul Patrol with me, and they would like play it for like 2 minutes and be like, "This is shit," and just like not play it ever again.
This is a dumb baby game. Have to use your hands.
I do love the name though, Ghoul Patrol. That's a great name.
Yeah. And then there's a spiritual successor to Zombies Ate My Neighbors coming soon, question mark. Which is like Demons Ate something. I don't know. But it seems interesting.
Neighbors ate my zombies.
Joke, then. It's gonna make a really bad joke.
It's Halloween. Make the joke. Make the joke, Luke.
I was
Oh,
gonna
God.
I was
say,
gonna say like ass.
I'm
or
gonna
dick or
get
something.
cancelled if you make the joke. That's my one caveat.
I was like, there's a sequel, you know, Demon something. I was gonna say, a dingo ate my baby.
Oh,
Oh, jeez.
I thought you were gonna say something like a dingo, a zombie ate my ass or something.
No.
Anyway,
my
tell us
God.
which one of those two jokes gets us cancelled. Definitely the first one. Alright, that about wraps up the super spooky Halloween Spookcast.
He says mundane and monotone.
I mean, look, it was a lot of fun. We don't get to do like silly themed things like this very often, so yeah, very good. Visit the site, you know all the shit. I'm not gonna say it all because you know it all, and this is a Halloween episode, so it's like super low effort. Find a lot of information in the show notes, whatever. You know what to do. Thanks for tuning in, and we'll see you in the next regular episode.